Canadian Conservatives spent $231 million tearing down working wind farms, including a farm just built that would have powered 60,000 homes. They tore down a brand new wind farm that was completely operational. This planet is doomed. Only half of it was ready for use. 4/9 turbines were finished, with the other 5 nearing completion, and it technically wasn't operational, yet since they hadn't connected it to the grid, I'm assuming they were waiting for the last few ones to be fully set up, but basically, yeah. The expensive part was already done, and with a couple more finishing touches it would have been good to go. Instead, they're paying to remove them. You've gotta understand though, it was a liberal project. They had to. That's what being fiscally conservative is all about, right? This makes me so sick. If you're wondering, this is Doug Ford, the provincial premier for Ontario. He is the brother of infamous Rob Ford, former crackhead mayor of Toronto. I think he's been smoking his brother's stash. Doug is the Trump of Canada at the moment. This is the latest in a string of nonsensical actions by the Ford government. To give more context, he ran on a platform, partly based on providing beer for $1. To provide more context, he cancelled a long-standing contract by a private company to be one of a select few beer retailers, at a cost of millions of dollars. The Ford government is truly a disgrace to my country, and to the world. I feel physically ill reading about this latest act. But again, it's just the latest in a string of nonsensical acts by Canadian Conservative parties. I'm afraid the Alberta Conservative government will be following suit. The Kenny provincial government, also Conservative, just took steps to effectively fire the independent investigator responsible for investigating campaign financing concerns. That man, and his team, had levied more than $200K in fines on Conservative MPs for violating campaign laws, and now he is fired. You know, that thing that Trump was trying to do with Mueller, but was unsuccessful at? Well, it just happened here and no one seems to give a shit. This country is circling the drain in a big way. Why are conservatives assholes, no matter where you go? These aren't even our worst. That's what I'm saying. Are they afraid of the windmill cancer? Or is their portfolio heavily invested in fossil fuels? I'm going with the latter. In this case, the motivation is owning the libs, though it may also be destroying everything Kathleen Wynne, the previous premier who is both from the Liberal Party of Ontario and openly gay, worked for, depending on when the project was approved, can't be asked to look it up. Ford's third main motivation, screw over Toronto as much as possible, isn't in play here. All of these plays come from the Trump New Conservative playbook. Morally bankrupt. Ford is Trump light. We are just lucky he only made it to provincial government. Better stop him there. My country is starting to scare me. This is ignorant and malicious. This last vote was brutal. Smarten the fuck up, people. Australia sends its regards. We've been following the US political illness for a while now. Can't say I feel positive about our chances of overcoming it. It's tough to counter a political philosophy that seems based around thinking about things less. Such insane waste, reactionaries. Spending to remove productive assets, spending to prevent development, spending to limit freedoms and flow of information. Edit, as the years drag on, it still feels very much like a Fall of Rome type situation, where they just kept doubling down on all the ideas that didn't work, and rejected all the values and ideals that had made the Republic work in the first place. By the end, all they had was force of arms, then, not even that. The root of this problem is actually an Australian media magnet. America didn't export it to you, you exported Satan decades ago and now he's grown. Quite true. What do the US, UK, and Australia all have in common, besides political chaos? The Murdoch family. They run the biggest news outlets that are stoking the flames. And he's not content with 3 countries, he would like to get more. I know this gets said all the time on Reddit, but it's cathartic, so I'm repeating it. I'm an atheist. I don't give a shit about heaven, but I sincerely hope there is a hell, and it's worse than a human mind can comprehend, and I hope Murdoch and everyone who shares his mindset suffers for eternity. This is the best TL Doctor I could make, original reduced by 92%, I'm a bot. The Ford government is spending hundreds of millions of dollars this year to tear down, or cancel 751 renewable energy projects around the province, according to documents obtained by City News. Last year, this government insisted that there would be no cost to cancelling renewable energy projects like the White Pines Wind Farm, NDP energy critic Peter Taben said in the legislature Tuesday. The opposition are also arguing that the PC government, which is currently fighting federal climate legislation in court, has another motivation for cancelling the renewable energy projects. The government estimates the cancellations will save $790 million in the long term, but couldn't tell City News how much had been spent to date in settling those contracts, despite repeated requests, or how much the government was saving by cancelling the White Pines contract. Kinda important note. The latter part is most important. They may claim it saves money, but provided no proof, and won't respond to requests to furnish such information from media. Toronto Global 640 AM talk radio was all over this. They didn't have the answers, didn't know how much people supposedly save, but by God and country, they hailed this as good news, cause fuck liberals and the environment, that's why. The GDP is the only thing that matters. Ever. Good lordy fuck, why in God's name are they tearing them down? Can boomers just stop voting already? Holy shit, this is embarrassing. Right? It's such a shame that all these old fucks that aren't going to be around long enough to suffer the consequences can fuck it up for the rest of us, because I've just always voted conservative is good enough for them. And then there's Western Canada, the prairies, that thinks voting conservative will let them jack off with oil sands money. And apparently only two parties exist, so fuck me for voting NDP. Wasting my vote, according to everyone. How many people voted Liberal, only because they didn't want to vote Conservative, and vice versa? No actual opinions on or belief in the party they're voting for, but just to prevent the other from getting a vote. It's sickening. There's Western Canada that thinks voting Conservative will let them jack off with oil sands money. BC exists, we elected an NDP Green coalition and they're doing great, y'all gotta get yourselves in check. NDP Green coalition is insanely successful. They've been hammering out their promises. They're going almost too fast. The election was so damn close that I was worried people wouldn't give the NDP more than one term, because they're fast furious, but now I would be surprised if they lost the next one. They won't get a majority certainly, but it's not like that's hindered them so far. People were shitting on Clark hard, but I've yet to see hostility towards Horgan, so unless they fuck up big time we are looking at more orange tinged with green. Ontarian here. Fucked out Ford. He's done absolutely fuck all to improve the province. He's scrapped critical services, increased debt, and decreased the amount of revenue in one fell swoop. If there was a way to impeach someone like this, I'm absolutely certain all Ontarians would go for it immediately. This man can and will rot in hell. Can't believe that idiot won. Fucking boomers voting us all to hell. Or as my dad says, at least I won't be alive to see the worst of it. My reply, but I will be, or your grandchildren. He concludes, that's your problem. It's odd because he is otherwise an empathetic and caring fellow. Otherwise an empathetic and caring. But he doesn't care if you die prematurely by his hand. I didn't realize these corrupt, backward-thinking knuckle-draggers were in Canada too. All they need is an orange troll to be the prime minister, and it will just be like our cesspool down here. The guy in question here is the drug-dealing brother of Toronto's crackhead mayor, who came into power on a late platform of impossibilities. He was gonna cut taxes, spend more money, and somehow balance the budget without cutting programs or firing people. He sorta is our orange troll, and I'd bet money that, if the political climate of the US wasn't a total dumpster fire right now, that old out here would be giving us a show too. Oh, but the Federal Conservative Party, this one's just the Ontario Conservatives, also took on some Republican campaign advisors, so I guess someone there is looking at the states, and being oh man, we should have more of that here, don't forget $1 beers. He promised $1 beers and some people actually voted for him on that ridiculous notion. Really, that's the worst possible lie. There is no way in hell that Canada could possibly get $1 beers. Even shitty watered down beer would be at least $1.50. Yeep. And yet according to some polls at the time, something like 5% of the people who were voting for him said they were doing it for $1 beers. Now obviously they might be joking, but that speaks volumes to their stupidity. Worse even than, if they actually voted for $1 beers, at least the idiot voting for $1 beers was fooled. People who claimed that's why they voted for him as a joke would imply they know this guy is a lying sack of shit, and voted for him anyway. Vote this piece of shit out. And sent to jail. Crimes against humanity and nature itself. This shit isn't funny jokey haha anymore. Seriously, their actions today are murdering people 20 to 60 years from now. They're removing pumps from a sinking ship because they don't like the stupid grey boxes that ruin the hallway's aesthetic, knowing full well they'll leave the cruise ship before the water starts taking its victims. This is a disgusting display of regressive knee-jerk spite and hatred for progressive policies. Tell me where to walk. Fuck you. I'm stomping where you said not to. They'd rather stomp on the necks of future generations and go along with what the other party says we should do. It's completely disgusting. Conservatism is a disease of the mind, at this point. Seriously fucked out Ford. Fiscally conservative my ass. What was the fucking point of this? To spite the liberals, or as just a fuck you to the environment? Because the type of people still supporting a shats like him, and Jason Kenney or Donald Trump, or insert populist right-wing moron here, would literally rather the government light $1 billion on fire than spend it on something liberals think is a good idea. It's the same reason you have so many poor Americans railing against candidates trying to give them better health care at a lower cost. They hate it because liberals think it is a good idea. It's bonkers. It is a mental illness at this point. People have come unhinged, and they will support these idiots, no matter what outrageous and ridiculously wasteful and antisocial thing they do. Democracy is broken, and I think social media and the abdication of their responsibilities of the actual media are largely to blame. That my team versus your team mentality is going to be the death of us all. It's really tragic to see things go down in flames because of people that will blindly make decisions purely in an effort to spite the other side. I like to believe that things will balance out in the end, but unfortunately it costs lives/careers/general well-being throughout the course of stupid spiteful decisions being made to reach that point. This team mentality is very likely caused by the fucked up voting system of the USA and Canada. It only allows for two parties to have a reasonable chance, and will create two opposing teams that work against each other, even though they were supposed to work together.